This is going to be a mini general collective angel oracle relationship reading. If it's meant for you, it's meant for you. This is not going to be that kind of reading today, but stay tuned. There will be a little reading at the end of this video, but I'm here to just talk today. Let's do a Kelly talk. My name is Kelly Lorraine. Kelly Lorraine 111. That number has been really significant to me, and I'm sure that 1s, 11s, and 1111 have been very significant to you too. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching this channel. So I'm here to just do a Kelly talk with you, and this is going to be a series where I want to talk all things spirituality, life, tarot, oracle cards. So please join me. I have my coffee ready to go. Yes, I'm a fur baby mom. You may see some of my kitty cats running around playing or causing some havoc in the background. So please bear with me and join us. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this new series is because I love to talk. I'm a Virgo, the Virgo sun, Libra moon, Sagittarius rising. So I describe myself as somebody who's definitely ruled by Mercury. So anybody who's a Gemini placement or Virgo placement, we have the gift of gab. I have a million stories, and I really want to share them with you today and in all the other videos that I plan on making. So if you have any spirituality questions, life questions, let me know in the comments. So I was a high school teacher from 2004 until 2022. That was the year my father passed away, but I'll talk about that in another video. I loved my teaching career. It was so rewarding, so fulfilling. I had such great experiences. I really can't complain. But I changed. I changed because I grew and life happened, and I'm sure many of you can identify with that. It's not easy to go through major life changes or make major decisions that impact everyone around you. Ultimately, I had to make the best decision for myself, and it really was the best decision because it brought me to what I'm doing right now, which is talking to all of you. You are my gift. I have been through so many ups and downs. Like I said, I have so many stories that I plan on sharing with you. I finally feel like I'm ready. And I don't know if any of you can identify with this, but sharing life stories isn't easy. We don't want to hurt the people around us. We're also afraid to share stories that are very personal and make us vulnerable because we start to think about what will people think about us? What will they say about us? And I remember when I first started on TikTok, I didn't know what it meant to go live, do a live stream. I didn't know what it meant to gain followers or how to just communicate through social media platforms. I was great in the classroom, but I didn't know what I would do online. And thankfully, it has been absolutely amazing. And I thank all of you for that. So one of the things that I love most about what I get to do is that I get to talk to people from all over the world. Every day, I get to sit at my computer, have a coffee, listen, and help people make major changes in their lives. It's super rewarding, and again, very thankful for that. But many people ask me, Kelly, how did you get into reading tarot cards? Like, what was it that made you say, hey, I want to take out a deck of cards and read energies? So I'm going to take you way back. I was probably about age 6. Now, I didn't start reading tarot at age 6, but I had my first spiritual experience that I think I can remember anyways, I was 6 years old. It was recess time at school. I was in grade 1. And all the little kids were playing outside, and some friends and I were twirling around on the bike bars. Now, if you don't know what bike bars are, or I don't even know what you would even call them, but they were these bars that you locked your bikes up to, okay? So it started to rain, and we were twirling around, doing front twirls, or I don't even know what you'd call them even. Like, it's not like a somersault because you're on the bar, but it would be like you'd go forward on the bar, or you go backwards on the bar, or you'd go all the way around the bar if you dared to do so. And all I remember was that the rain started pouring down. And in that moment, my hand slipped and I went face down into the concrete. Now, luckily, I was okay, but I did bloody my forehead, like right about here. Now, you can't see it, but I have a scar there. I can feel it, it's just not visible. And I ran into the bathroom and I saw blood coming down my face and I panicked. And of course the school called my mother and she picked me up and I went to work with her for the rest of the day and sat in her office and, did my healing. Now, you might think, could that really be a spiritual experience? Well, I didn't really put two and two together till many years later that I basically fell onto my third eye area, which I think is what sort of cracked me open or enlightened me. And the reason I say that is because around that age, I started having these reoccurring dreams, and they were very significant. They were about a specific person that I knew. And, I don't know how to explain this, but it was just this random view of the future. Okay. And the dream would always be the same. I would kind of run into this person years later at a reunion. You'd see each other across the room. You'd say hi, exchange, almost like feelings, as in like, wow, like I really liked you. And then in the dream, the person would tell me they really like me too. And that made me so happy because school crush, right? And I don't know how to explain it. I just had these reoccurring dreams of knowing what was coming my way. Little did I know that when I was about, I don't know, maybe 19 or 20, that dream that was recurring pretty much my entire youth or teenage years would come to life. And I did run into this person, and we had that exact conversation that I had in my dream as a small child. Now, you might think, oh my goodness, did you end up together? What happened? Well, no, we didn't. We simply had a moment, said hi, exchanged some really nice words to each other, and then went on our own ways, other directions of the establishment we were in. So essentially, I thought that would be the end of those dreams. Well, I was wrong. Okay, so I need a sip of coffee before I continue this story. Okay, so I thought the dreams would be over. They weren't. They continued. Now, I can't even believe this. I can't even get the words out right now. I would have reoccurring dream continuations for the next, I don't know how many years, even up until now. I can't remember when I had the most recent one, but I can tell you that the story has always continued. And I used to think, is it really about this person? I think we would all think that. Anytime we have these kind of reoccurring dreams or deep dreams about a person, we think it has to be about the person. Well, as I got older and experienced what I would call a reawakening, I recognized that it was not about that person. It was about the archetype of a person, not that person, a person. And you might be wondering what I mean by that. So let me first start off by saying reawakening. I don't call it an awakening because I think we're born awakened. I think that we go through the motions and day-to-day of life. We're programmed to all of these things in the world. And then all of a sudden, life stops. It shifts. We get these tower moments and we get shaken up. And that's what I call a reawakening. Now, just to clarify, sometimes these reawakenings happen after, some event that wasn't pleasant. And I don't wish any of those on anyone, but they can include having an accident, a near-death experience, a health scare, a breakup. I had a major divorce happen in my life, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, but it wasn't easy. And I'm sure many of you can understand what that feels like, and that's why you're here listening to me now. But essentially, I had a reawakening. And that reawakening was sparked by the end of my marriage and then sparked by an individual that came into my life. Okay, so most people will call this the Twinflame Journey, and I just want to let you know that I don't really use that label very often. So if you like to use it, all good. For me, I've been on this journey quite a while, and I feel like I've recognized that this is more about self-love, self-healing, and yes, it brought me a person into my life who really helped me change, and I have so much gratitude for this person. But essentially, it was all about me, not about them. And so maybe you'll understand as you follow my journey, the similarities for you. But here's the thing. Those recurring dreams from way back when, they were an archetype of a person, right? And so when this person sparked me moving forward here, it was unlike anything I ever felt before. And they had the same zodiac sign, same vibe as what I knew growing up in those reoccurring dreams. Now, I associated possibly that this was all about a person. Again, it really wasn't. It was the archetype of a person, meaning a look, a vibe, a situation, a connection to my own life, similarities that were just so uncanny. Like, how could you meet someone who was so similar? And I think a lot of you can identify with this. When you meet a person who sparks you, it's crazy. It's intense. It's exciting. It makes you feel understood. It makes you feel like you're looking into someone's soul and they're looking into yours. But what I always say to people is that it's all about awakening your soul. It's your soul trying to tell you to make some moves in life. So I would argue that you may have been sparked by somebody at a time when you least expected it. You weren't looking for it. You were in that feminine energy that says, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm receiving whatever's coming my way. And by the way, masculine and feminine energy is not about gender. We'll talk about that later. We have so many things to talk about later, but I digress. So here's the thing. You are in this receiving mode of this new energy and it feels so good. It actually motivates you to do all the things you never thought possible. But to some extent, why are you doing it? Why was I doing it? I was doing it because I thought I was finally going to get my due after all the tough things I'd been through. I thought that this would mean I would have the relationship of my dreams. Now, don't get me wrong. I had a great marriage for many years, really. I just didn't want to be in a relationship with this person anymore due to other circumstances. But I really thought that I was going to move into something that was going to be so much better for me. But what happened is I started chasing it and it ran away from me, like many of us experience. And it's so hurtful. It's difficult. It brings you to your knees and essentially changes your life in so many ways. It really all depends on your perspective, how much you want to change, but it can bring you the best gifts imaginable. So I was sparked by someone. And I'm living my best life in so many ways. I'm making moves in my marriage. I separate from my ex-husband. I start to find myself again, and I'm super motivated. Now, interestingly enough, while I was in the process of closing out my marriage, as in, working out the details to separate, I did a psychic reading with somebody. And when I was talking to her, she was incredible. She connected with me. She helped me in so many ways. We talked a lot about my grandfather who passed away when I was very young. And we talked about, things that were going on in my marriage. And so I trusted her. And that's why it's always really important to find somebody you really trust and who knows what they're talking about, who understands energy. That's why I pride myself on being that way with my clients, my friends, my family. I like to make sure I'm authentic. And so hopefully from this video and from other videos of mine that you can always trust me to give you the best advice possible, because I would never tell you something that I wouldn't do myself. I wouldn't talk about something that I haven't experienced. I make sure that we connect before we go any further in our sessions. So here's the thing. I was going through this end of my marriage and I get sparked. So I reach out to this psychic advisor another time, and she says to me, Kelly, have you ever heard about twin flames? Now, I pride myself on knowing pop culture and understanding what's going on in the world, and I'm shocked. I've never heard of this concept, and I have no idea why. Well, I was about to find out. My psychic advisor tells me, you should really check out this video on YouTube. And I'm like, okay, I do. I watch it and I'm like, whoa, okay, this really feels familiar to me. And then what do you think happens? I start seeing tarot readings everywhere on my YouTube. And I start watching. And I'm fascinated because I've always been so intuitive. I've always had this gift of just knowing. And I can tell you so many stories, which I probably will in other videos, about moments where I knew something and then of course it came to light later. So I watch these videos, I start learning the meanings of the cards. I go and I download an ebook about the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. Now, interestingly enough, I knew nothing about the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, which tarot deck to use. I just looked up tarot. I didn't even know the difference between tarot cards and oracle cards, so much so that when I ran to my local crystal shop, because I had to have something today, okay? Like, I wasn't gonna wait for Amazon to deliver me anything. I knew I had a crystal shop down the street, and I was gonna go in there and see if I could get a deck of tarot cards. Well, I go into that crystal shop, met this wonderful lady who became such a wonderful friend of mine later on. But at the time, didn't know her, didn't know anything about crystals, anything about tarot, oracle cards, you name it. I go in there and buy my first decks. Now, here's the thing. They didn't have any tarot decks. But I also didn't know the difference between tarot decks and oracle decks. Okay, so my first deck was The Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron Reid, a classic. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I will do a reading with it at the very end, so stay tuned. But it was Wisdom of the Oracle. I bring it home, I open it up, and I'm like, what do I do with this? And I just basically start reading the book, looking at the images, and doing some basic interpretations. I highly advise that you just take your time with it. There are no expectations. You don't have to rush anything. You don't have to be a professional card reader right away. You just have to feel it out intuitively. And that's the best thing I can advise you to do. So I bought Wisdom of the Oracle. Then I went online and I looked for tarot decks. And interestingly enough, I didn't buy the Rider-Waite, which is typically the one most people start with. Although, do they? I'd like to know what deck you started with. Let me know in the comments. I chose The Wild Unknown by Kim Krans. And the reason why I chose that deck is because it had beautiful pen and ink imagery. I loved the watercolor look of the colors that were used in the deck. It just really spoke to me. Now, it didn't necessarily talk in the same language as tarot because it was like Father of Cups. And I was like, okay, Father of Cups, King of Cups. You know, when you're learning tarot, you have to like learn all the lingo, you know? And so for me, I was trying to navigate with this wild unknown. I guess it kind of was the wild unknown when you think about it for me. I think it would be for anybody who's learning something new in regards to spirituality or anything in life, really. So I started playing around with these decks. Now, I didn't know what I was doing, but I started with like a 1-card pull. I would ask, what do I need to know? And then I would progress to 3 cards, you know, past, present, future. And then eventually, intuitively, I just started doing my own spread. Now, I don't know who invented the spread first. I don't claim to be the inventor of the spread because I think there's many different variations of card spreads. But intuitively, when I wanted to know the connection between me and another person, I would do my headspace, their headspace, my heart space, their heart space, overall energy, and underlying energy. And so that's the format that I use in all of my relationship readings that I do for, you know, you online. So that really helped me get to know myself and test out the energies with people that were coming in and out of my life. Now, I mean, you do whatever feels right for you. Always trust yourself. And that's a question I would ask you. Do you trust yourself? Do you trust your intuition? Because when it comes to spirituality and reading cards, it is absolutely important that you do so. Now, I know many people actually struggle with reading their own cards. I'm very lucky that I can read my own cards. I was blessed with an astrology chart that allows me to see the bigger picture. I think my gift from the earliest of age is that I can understand why people do what they do, even if I don't agree with it. I've always just had this ability to just look at it from the bigger picture and not make it personal. So when I read my own cards, I know when I'm telling myself something that maybe I want to hear, you know? So I'm very mindful of what the energies are, and it's important to be self-aware. So you might be wondering what the timeline is of all of this happening in my life. Well, I was approximately 35 when I had the tower moment from hell. Now, I have a theory about 35, and we'll definitely talk about that going forward, but essentially I was 35. Now, when I started reading tarot cards and oracle cards, I was probably around 37, 38. And so that was the real start of my personal practice, doing some readings for some friends or family members, and then ultimately that led me to wanting to do this professionally. Now, starting a spiritual business is not necessarily an easy one. I had to sort of segue myself out of one thing into another because I had my full-time teaching job and I loved it. But I remember the day that things changed for me. I had gone to school just before the new school year, and I walked into a conversation that wasn't so pleasant. And it showed me what was going on in the system of education. And I said to myself, I need to do different. I love teaching, but I want to teach beyond the classroom. And so I remember going home and thinking about what it is that I want to do. What am I passionate about? And those of you that know me know I love passion projects, and we'll talk about that at a later time. Like I keep saying, we have so many things to talk about. But I decided to pursue my passion. But I couldn't just drop everything and start a tarot business. I had to segue myself. So what I was doing was getting better at my craft. I decided to start a TikTok, an Instagram, and a YouTube. And funnily enough, I had another YouTube before this one, but I wasn't really focused. I really didn't know what it was that I wanted to do with it. You know that idea that comes into your mind and it excites you and you go for it, but you really haven't thought it through? That was me. And I actually stopped it. I took a break. And then miraculously one day, after visiting my crystal shop, by the way, I met a random man in the crystal shop who was a friend of the owner. And he stopped me and he said, "Do you mind if I read you for a moment?" And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "You need to start your YouTube. You need to do it. Promise me you'll do it." And now I have never met this man. Okay, I think his name was Tony, if I'm not mistaken. And I said, "Okay, Tony, thank you." And he goes, "You need to start it by such and such a date." And I said, "Okay, Tony, I promise you, I will." And so I did. I was inspired and I thought to myself, okay, I'm just going to start making readings. Now, I had no idea what I was going to do, right? How to handle this, how to form questions or do live streams, or I don't know. It was kind of just a fly by the seat of my pants kind of vibe. But I guess that's also me in a classroom. As a teacher, every day, that's what I would do. Yes, I knew the lessons that I wanted to teach. I was prepared. But I'm not the kind of person who writes notes, it's all up here for me. And people are always amazed by that because I'm not a note taker. I am essentially somebody who says, okay, I have an idea, it's in my head, and I'm gonna try it out, trial and error. So that's basically what I did. I got on TikTok, I started making videos. I never thought in a million years that I would ever hear myself say, this is gonna be a million times a day. I didn't even know where I would even start. If it's meant for you, it's meant for you. That came so naturally. It just happened one day where I made a video and I said, if it's meant for you, it's meant for you. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And that's how it all started. I just was authentically myself. And I think that that's really important. If you're thinking about building a spiritual practice or business of some kind, remember that authenticity goes a long way. Now, you don't have to be in business to want to be authentic. I suggest that in your daily life. We should be authentic. We should not be afraid to express ourselves or to be who we are. But unfortunately, many of us do struggle with that. And I did too. Getting on a camera or on a live stream and talking to people, it can be daunting. It's a little scary. I don't know how people are going to respond, but I do know me. And as a teacher, I would come to my classroom every day. I would unlock the door and I would welcome every student in. I made it an effort to get to know them as a person, not just a student number. I wanted to know how their soccer practice was, how their basketball game was, how their weekend was, how was that movie they went to go see, how was that family event. And that was always very successful to me. I really love people. I love human nature, understanding what makes us tick, the human condition. It's really important to me. And so when I started my TikTok, my Instagram, my YouTube, all I wanted to do was connect with people. I wanted to build a community and build a family. And so now when people join me on my live streams on TikTok and Instagram, it's always, hi so-and-so, hi so-and-so, hi so-and-so. I go through all the highs and I go through all the byes, just like I would, at the end of my day at school, I would say goodbye to each student as they walked out the door. And what I recognized was building that connection, or those connections, really took me a long way. And I'm forever grateful for the bonds that I have formed, not only in the classroom, friendships outside of the classroom, and my online family and friends. It has been the biggest blessing, and I say it every single day, and I don't think I will ever stop saying it. So as I practiced my tarot readings and online presence, I really was segueing myself out of my teaching career. And the universe really responded. So as I was dealing with some family issues, my father was ill. He had dementia and Parkinson's disease. I wanted to move back and be closer to my family, and this prompted me to want to take a 1 year unpaid leave from my job. And this proved to be very difficult. The school district that I was working for was not very supportive of this. I went through every avenue to make this leave happen, and unfortunately, I was met with resistance the entire way. 1 year unpaid, never asked for anything, never asked for time off, and they said no. Then my father was in the hospital, and they asked me to get a medical note for my dad's illness to show that I needed to be off work, and I did so. However, they didn't like the message that the doctor wrote on the form. You know, my dad needed constant care. He was in the hospital. It was not looking good. And my school board basically questioned my father's imminent death, which was very sad to me, you know, because I was being truthful about what was going on in my life. And that really hurt. Then on top of that, there was another type of leave that I could ask for, but I had to go through all the hoops and all the back and forth when really I should have been spending time with my father and my family in the hospital. So I felt like I was playing phone tag and email tag every day of my life at that point. So what ended up happening was my father passed away. And at that point, I had my mother to think about, who was also a senior citizen, my grandfather, who was, in a facility at a very difficult age, 90s, he just passed away recently at 96, but, his 90s were not easy because he was also dealing with the death of my grandmother. And one of these days I'll get into all these stories. Many of you have heard my grandmother's stories and life stories, but I will share them again with you soon. But essentially, I was thinking about my family and what I needed. And I was just met with so much resistance that one day I said, you know what? I'm not going to go back. I'm going to take that leap of faith and I'm going to do this full time. And my mother, she said to me, Kelly, she's like, are you serious? She's like, you're nuts. And I said, yeah, well, just watch me. And that's something my father would have said, whenever he had a project, a building project or something in business that he wanted to do. And my mother would say, are you sure? Are you sure? And my dad would go, watch me. And I did the same thing. And I never looked back and I have no regrets. So I understand what it's like to take a leap of faith. I have receipts, by the way, not that I have to prove myself, but I want you to know that I understand what you're going through. I really do. I know what it's like to deal with family boundary issues. I know what it's like to go through a divorce. I know what it's like to be hurt, to feel like you're at the lowest of possible low. And all I can say is, I'm here for you. I didn't have anybody when I was going through all of this, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. Because I love people, I love growth. I want you to have the best of the best of the best. You're a reflection of me, and I'm a reflection of you. So I want my friends to do well. Never doubt that. So making this change wasn't easy. Is anything ever easy? No. But you know what? I'm glad that I did it, and I'm still learning and I'm still growing. Hence why I'm sitting here talking to you in a different style than I usually do, because I'm of the belief that I've always got to reinvent myself. I've always got to change. I've always got to grow. I've always got to do something different. I've got to get the message out in whatever way I possibly can. Professionally at this point, I've been doing this online for about 3 years. I started in 2021. Now, 2021 was my segue year. 2022, my father passed away, and I officially left my teaching career. I left behind a great salary, a full pension, and great benefits. But you know what? I have even more benefits just doing what I'm doing right now. And I don't mean the tangible kind. I mean the emotional kind. So I've been doing this happily, successfully, enjoying myself. And again, I thank all of you for trusting me with your stories and your energy. So I hope you've enjoyed this little mini story time about me and where I've been. I have so much more to tell you, but what I'd like to do right now for you is do a mini general collective reading for all of you using my very first decks, the Wild Unknown and the Wisdom of the Oracle. Stay with me. Okay, so this is my first Oracle deck I've ever purchased, and it's called Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron Reed. I highly recommend it. Her imagery is beautiful. Her messages are so deep, and the one thing that I love about this deck is that You get so many interpretations in this guidebook, okay? So look how thick this is. Now, I like to take a book sometimes and just open it up to a random page and see what the message is on that page. You can do that too. So I highly advise that you grab a book that you love, that you identify with, and just open it up to a random page and see what messages come out. You can do that with Oracle deck books as well. So I just opened it up to this page here. Now, I find this card so interesting. That's a whole other story. It says, why? On a side note, do you ever notice that people love to ask the question, why? They love the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And that's because we like to control the outcome, right? So you might be saying to yourself, well, why do I need to know this? Why do I need to listen to this video? Why do I need to become more self-aware? Why do I need to change? Well, because we're all about growth. I'm about a growth mindset. I like change. I like to reinvent myself. I like to innovate myself. I like to be new and improved as much as I possibly can. It's when we stay stuck that everything else stays stuck. And if you don't like the circumstances you're in, it's time to make a move, okay? So maybe this is your why today. Maybe you're gonna ask yourself, why? I'm curious to know what your answers will be for your change. Why do you need to make a change today? Now, what I wanted to point out about this book is that it starts off with the essential meanings, okay? So let me do that with this card. Motives, driving intention, the power of knowing the why. And then you get the oracle's message, you get a relationship message, a prosperity message, and a protection message. And you know what? I wanted to make another point. I love numerology as well. So I opened it up to page 116. And 116, that would be a number 8. Well, 8 is about infinity, infinite abundance. That's the why. There's the answer to our question. Okay, so let's do a mini general collective reading. I'm going to use the Wisdom of the Oracle, but I'm also going to use the Wild Unknown, my first tarot deck. And as you can see, one of the reasons why I love this deck is because I love the colors. I love the pen and ink design. It's very, very special. Now, I will say this. Oops, as I'm dropping cards. I will say this. This is a timeless reading. When you're watching this is when you're meant to. Okay, so if you're seeing this the day after I post this, the day I post it, a month from now, a year from now, it's not about the timing. It's about when you receive the message, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at the general energies right now and let you know how to navigate them, okay? So current energy today, and I got 2 cards and I love it. This is the 6 of Wands. There's victory coming. This is transformation and change because that butterfly means you're making moves. And guess what you're making moves for? Your 10 of Pentacles, which means your tangible wish fulfillment. That's having it all. Not just your finances in order, but your job, your family, your relationship, right? You're striving. What drives you and why does it drive you, right? And with that, you have TikTok on the clock. If you're not going to do this now, when are you going to do it, okay? So let's take a look at the potential or the challenge here. Well, the Hermit. You might be feeling isolated and hermiting yourself from the rest of the world. But here's the thing, you're looking for enlightenment. And maybe this reading will give you some. Now, lately I've been talking about how the energies are really intense. The days are moving very quickly, but the process is moving very slowly. You have to let the energy catch up with you, okay? So don't try to rush anything. Just try to trust the process, and we'll talk about that later. Now, with that, we have here orphaned. Some of you feel like you're on your own, and I know that feeling. Remember earlier I said I didn't have anybody to help me. I felt like I was at the lowest of the low point in my life, but I picked myself up and I made moves and I sparked new energy, and I always recommend that to people. Now, what should you focus on today? Your healing. The 4 of Swords means rest, rejuvenation, taking a nap, even if you need that today. And with that, we have here truth be told. It's important that you live your authentic truth and acknowledge what is true around you. Now, here's the thing about truth. Truth is subjective, okay? So your truth may be different than my truth or anyone else in your life, but you've got to take off the mask. Look at the mask on this card. A mask can be ego. It can be fear. And I understand how you feel if you are in fear. But the owl is about wisdom and knowledge. And I want to make a point. You have knowledge that you didn't have before because you've gone through those tower moments or those major changes in your life. So don't underestimate yourself. Now it's time for you to implement the knowledge that you've learned. Now let's take a look at the recent past. We have here, well, we have the 9 of Wands, which is basically the 9 of wounds, I call it. This is the wounded warrior energy. You've been through battle. You have one knee down, but you're not down and out. Now, with that, we have imagine. What do you imagine for yourself? Are you getting in the way of your imagination? Okay, let's take a look at your strength position right now. Well, the 3 of Swords, you're going through heartbreak and change and sadness, and I totally understand it, but you can't stay in that heartbreak forever. Things have to move forward at a certain point, otherwise you're going to be very unhappy. Now with that, we have to the sea. You might be feeling very emotional. You might be taking a bath where you're kind of just soaking in the water, but it's not just the water, it's your emotions. It's like the sea of tears, and at a certain point you have to stop and you have to let it go. Now the near future for you is the strength card, finding the strength and the courage to push yourself forward. All you can do is build your confidence through new experiences. I always say we got to spark new energy, right? And with that, we have mending, allowing yourself to heal and to mend that broken heart that we just spoke about. So let's take a look at the suggested approach. What do you need to do in order to heal? Well, you have to stop being in conflict. Don't engage in the conflict. This is an energy that says, should I, shouldn't I? Can I have this? Can I really have this? And yes, you can, but you have to believe in yourself and you got to take small steps. You can't change the world in a day, but you can take small steps. And with that, we have peace. What brings you peace? You know, we all strive for that, but sometimes we don't know what to do with it once we get it. You know, I always say it's one thing to ask for happiness, another thing to allow it. Well, it's the same thing with peace. So what do you need to know? Look at this. How beautiful is this? This is the 6 of Swords. This is moving on to calmer waters and peace. This could also be a card of literal travel. So maybe you're thinking about getting away even for a day, a weekend, a week, whatever it is for you, go for it. And look at this beautiful rainbow. Everything's going to be okay. Now your hope and or fear, the fates. If it's meant for you, it's meant for you. You can't control the outcome. You can control what you do on the daily. You can be in the present moment. But you have to let things unfold naturally, and you have to let yourself trust the process, even though I know it's super difficult. But it can be done. Look what you're hoping for. Love, the 2 of Cups. You can't have 2 cups without 1 cup. You've got to fill your own cup. This is me sitting here doing my thing, filling my own self, making myself feel good so that I can attract it elsewhere. And you can too. Okay? Now, let's see. Probable outcome. The 10 of Cups. You know, it's really interesting. We started off this reading with the 10 of Pentacles, which is tangible fulfillment. This is your emotional wish fulfillment. 1010 could be an angel number that you're seeing. I know that number was very significant to me when my grandmother was passing away many years ago. She passed at 10:10 in the evening. She was in room 505, which is half of 10:10. So if you ever see those signs and synchronicities that mean something to you, they do mean something. They're testing you. They're showing you the way. And let's take one last card here, and we have message in a bottle. There's a message for you here in this reading or in this video today. Please let me know in the comments what's something you can take away from this video or my story. This has been an amazing experience filming this first video for all of you, and I thank you so much. I do offer personal readings. The link is in my bio. But as always, thank you for your kindness, your love, your support. It really means the world to me. So thank you very much, and I look forward to telling you a lot more stories.